you ever realized that there's a part of you no one really knows? Not even you? That quiet side you keep tucked away, the one that only appears in those rare moments when your mind slips, when you're tired or unguarded, when something inside you almost surfaces before you push it back down. Maybe you felt it during a late-night drive, staring at the city lights with a heaviness you can't explain, or in the middle of a conversation when a sudden emotion hits you out of nowhere. And then, beneath everything, a question rises, one you never say out loud. Why does this affect me so deeply? Most people spend their entire lives running from that question. Here in a culture that rewards productivity, emotional distance, and staying in control, we're taught to mute what we feel, to dress our pain in small talk, to hide the parts of us that don't fit neatly into a polite smile. That's why so many today, even surrounded by people, even scrolling endlessly through connected screens, feel strangely disconnected from themselves. Living versions of who they learned to be, not who they actually are. But what if I told you that the thing you try hardest to control is exactly the thing trying to reveal you? What if that inner conflict, the confusion, the emptiness, the feeling that you're split between the life you live and the life you sense inside, isn't a flaw, but a signal? A psychological code. A message from the deepest part of your mind. Because you're not living as yourself. You're living as what the world taught you to be. And that's why certain people shake you, why certain feelings scare you, why certain memories keep returning. They touch the place you've kept hidden, the unspoken story inside you. But there is a way out of this. And it begins now. Imagine, just for a moment, that within you lies a narrative you've never allowed yourself to read, made of emotions you silenced, desires you buried, and truths you've avoided for years. A story that tries to surface every time you feel something intense or inexplicable. In this video, we're going to cross that threshold. We're going to step beyond the noise of the conscious mind and into the territory you've avoided the most. So let me ask you, are you ready to hear what your mind has been trying to tell you once you finally stop running? And before we dive deeper, if you feel called to explore these inner landscapes with me, consider joining this community. Subscribing is how you let me know you're ready to go further. Before we continue, if you feel that this journey is already revealing something you've been afraid to confront, take a moment to subscribe. Becoming part of this community is how you signal to yourself that you're ready to explore your inner world with honesty and depth. Now, let's begin. Most people think desire starts with chemistry, instinct, or something as simple as physical attraction. But through a Jungian lens, that's only the surface, a thin outer layer of something infinitely deeper. To Jung, desire is not an accident, not a random emotional spark, not a weakness you need to resist. Desire is a symbol. A psychological force carrying meaning. A message from the unconscious, written in a language your rational mind rarely knows how to read. And this is where the reframing begins. Because from Jung's perspective, desire doesn't point outward. It points inward. What you feel for someone, whether sudden, intense, confusing, or impossible to explain, isn't about that person alone. It's about the part of yourself that they activate. A part of your identity that has been asleep, buried, or denied for far too long. Desire, in this sense, functions like a psychological messenger. Ignoring it is like tearing up a letter written specifically for you. To understand this, we need to revisit one of Jung's central ideas. Everything you repress becomes shadow, and everything in the shadow seeks integration. And how does the shadow communicate? Through symbols. Through impulses. Through fantasies. And yes, through desire. When something touches your shadow, you feel a visceral jolt, a kind of emotional electricity that you can't fully explain. It's as if a forgotten part of you suddenly wakes up, stretching after years in the dark. And that awakening can be terrifying. But Jung insisted, the intensity is not the problem. The intensity is the message. The reframing is this: instead of asking, why do I feel this for that person? Ask, what is this desire trying to reveal about me? Because desire is rarely a request for the other. It is a request for a version of yourself you've silenced. Think about it. Why do you find yourself drawn to someone confident when you were raised to stay small, polite, invisible? Why someone free when your life became a series of obligations and self-control? Why someone intense when you've spent years numbing your emotions to survive? The other person becomes a mirror, reflecting qualities you lost, rejected, or never believed you were allowed to embody. And here is the crucial insight. In Jungian psychology, desire points not to your emptiness, but to your potential. It's not a reminder of what you lack, it's a reminder of what can be restored. It is the unconscious saying, look here. This is yours. This belongs to you too. This is why desire can feel overwhelming or frightening. Integration always requires you to face the parts of yourself that were once judged, suppressed, or shamed. Those old emotional wounds don't disappear, they wait. And when desire touches them, they flare. This is why desire often comes with fear, shame, confusion, or even guilt. Not because it's wrong, but because it's powerful. Jung saw desire as part of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. To desire is to come into contact with pieces of your psyche that want to grow. It's a call. An invitation to become more authentic. More fully yourself. And this is why desire often emerges at the wrong time, with the wrong person, or in a way that makes no logical sense. Because the unconscious does not operate by convenience. It operates by truth. It reveals exactly what you've avoided the longest, and exactly where your real transformation lies. From this perspective, the other person stops being a temptation or an obsession. They become a symbol. A revelation of your unexpressed self. And from that moment on, you no longer run from desire. You decode it. You ask what it's pointing toward. What it's trying to awaken. What version of you is asking to be remembered? Because desire, in the Jungian sense, isn't here to destabilize you. It's here to free you. To reconnect you with the part of you that's ready finally to come alive. Before we go any deeper, if this content is helping you understand yourself in ways you've never been taught before, consider subscribing. Joining this community is how you tell your mind, I'm ready to stop running and start understanding. Let's continue. From a very young age, we learn to monitor ourselves. We learn to scan our emotions before we even allow them to exist. We learn to filter our impulses, adjust our thoughts, and bury anything that feels too much. Little by little, desire, something that should be a natural expression of the psyche, becomes something we feel pressured to explain, justify, control, or completely deny. And this conflict doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's built, layer by layer. Here in the West, especially in American culture, we grow up surrounded by invisible rules about what is acceptable to feel. Some messages are spoken plainly, others are delivered through silence, through a look, through the weight of expectation. Family, religion, school, media, cultural norms, they all shape the emotional rules you internalize. And these rules dictate not only how you behave, but what you believe you're allowed to feel. That's where psychological suffering begins. Because what you are forced to hide never disappears. It slips into the shadow. According to Jung, every repressed emotion becomes more intense the moment it loses contact with consciousness. Not because it's immoral, but because the moment you stop acknowledging it, you stop guiding it. This is what turns a simple desire into something tangled with shame, guilt, fear, or confusion. It's not the desire that hurts you. It's the fight against it. Jung famously said, "What you resist, persists." And this is the exact dynamic between desire and social conditioning. The more you try to silence what you feel, the louder that feeling becomes. Think about this for a moment. How many times did you want to express something, but swallowed your own voice? How many times did you feel attraction, curiosity, impulse, and instantly thought, I shouldn't feel this? That I shouldn't doesn't come from your truth. It comes from conditioning. It's the echo of a parent saying, Good girls don't feel that. It's the echo of a culture telling men. Real men don't show vulnerability. It's the voice of religion whispering, desire is sinful. It's the voice of society insisting, control yourself. Stay within the lines. It's the voice of the world saying, don't be who you are. Be who we expect you to be. And so, your entire inner world shrinks itself to fit molds that were never meant for you. But here's the truth that conditioning can never erase. Your internal truth never dies. Because desire doesn't obey social norms. It obeys the psyche. And the psyche is radically honest. This is why, even after years of self-monitoring, one unexpected moment, a glance, a memory, a presence, can awaken something you thought you had buried. This doesn't happen because you're weak. It happens because your real self is trying to breathe. And this is exactly where psychological conflict is born. Conditioning says, control. The unconscious says, express. Conditioning says, repress. The unconscious says, reveal. Conditioning says, feel shame. The unconscious says, feel truth. And the greater the distance between those two voices, the greater the internal chaos, confusion, anxiety, self-judgment, emotional paralysis. You start believing there's something wrong with you, when, in reality, there is something deeply alive inside you, something that was never allowed to exist. Here's the revelation most people never hear. Your desire isn't here to morally challenge you. It's here to restore you. It appears as a reminder of a part of yourself that you lost or were forced to abandon. Conditioning teaches you to fear your own intensity. But desire teaches you that your intensity is exactly where your truth lives. And everything changes the moment you realize this. The conflict is not between you and your desire. The conflict is between you and the conditioning that tells you to be smaller than you are. Real emotional freedom doesn't come from controlling yourself. It comes from understanding yourself. And if this insight is helping you see yourself differently, leave a like. It's a small gesture that supports this space of deep inner work. Before we begin, if this content is helping you see yourself with more honesty and less fear, take a moment to subscribe. Being part of this community is not just about watching videos, it's about entering a space where your inner world is finally allowed to exist. Let's continue. There is a territory inside the human mind that most people are afraid to explore, the realm of fantasies. And I'm not speaking only of fantasies tied to desire, but of the entire symbolic world that emerges when the conscious mind relaxes and the unconscious finally has room to speak. Fantasies, in Jungian terms, are messages encoded in imagery. They are the secret language of the psyche. They reveal what you long for, but also what you fear, what you've lost, and what you're capable of becoming. But this truth is rarely taught. Instead, many grow up believing their fantasies are strange, wrong, or shouldn't exist. That belief doesn't come from your inner truth. It comes from cultural conditioning, from a society uncomfortable with emotional depth, from religious narratives, from unspoken family rules, and from a collective fear of what is raw and unfiltered inside us. But fantasies themselves? They are not dangerous. What's dangerous is refusing to understand them. Jung taught that the unconscious speaks through symbols, and symbols are never literal. A fantasy doesn't necessarily point to something you want to act out. It points to something you want to integrate. Every image, every scenario, every feeling that arises in your inner world carries psychological meaning. Think about this. A fantasy of power might come from a life where you were forced to shrink yourself to be accepted. A fantasy of surrender might reflect the exhaustion of someone who has always had to be strong. A fantasy of intensity might come from emotions you were never allowed to express. A fantasy of protection might be the voice of old wounds still searching for safety. None of this is about morality. It's about authenticity. Fantasies are mirrors. They reflect the emotional story you've never spoken, the chapters that remain trapped in the unconscious. They show what your conscious mind refuses to admit but your soul is ready to feel. And when you allow yourself to look at these inner images without judgment, something extraordinary happens. Your psyche begins to reconnect with itself. Because repression fragments you, but understanding brings you back together. Imagine someone who has intense fantasies of freedom, of breaking rules, of stepping outside of the expectations they've lived under their entire life. This doesn't mean they want to destroy everything. It means they've lived inside tight emotional boundaries for far too long. The fantasy serves as a reminder, there is a part of you that has been suffocating. Or someone who fantasizes about being deeply desired. This may not be about physicality at all, it might stem from a childhood or adolescence where they felt invisible, overlooked, or unworthy. Or someone who fantasizes about letting go of control. This often comes from a lifetime spent managing everything, being the responsible one, the strong one, the one who cannot fall apart. The fantasy isn't the problem. The fantasy is the doorway. It leads you directly into your emotional truth, the truth you've been trained to ignore. And this is why Jung saw fantasies as one of the purest expressions of the psyche. Because only when consciousness steps aside does the real message come through. The question is not, why do I have this fantasy? The real question is, what is this fantasy trying to reveal about my story, my wounds, my desires, and the parts of me that were never allowed to live? This shift, this reframing transforms fantasies from something to hide, into something to understand. Because fantasies don't show who you should be. They show who you are beneath layers of conditioning, fear, and self-protection. They are not instructions. They are revelations. And when you explore them with curiosity instead of shame, you begin to integrate the pieces of yourself that were left in the dark. At the end of the day, fantasies exist for one reason, not to mislead you, but to reveal you. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. If at any point in this video something resonated with you, even a single sentence or a small realization, share it in the comments. Sometimes writing your truth is the first step toward actually hearing it. Let's bring everything together. When we look at everything we've explored, desire, shadow, conditioning, fantasies, the unspoken layers of identity, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. None of it is random. None of it exists to shame you. None of it appears by mistake. Every impulse that rises in you, every memory that returns uninvited, every person who unexpectedly stirs your emotions, every fantasy that emerges in the quiet hours of the night, all of it is part of a single, deeper narrative. It is the psyche saying, I am still here. It is the forgotten part of you asking to be seen, heard, felt, maybe for the first time in years. And once you understand that, desire stops looking like a threat. It begins to look like a teacher. Not a gentle teacher, but a truthful one. A teacher that speaks in symbols, in instincts, in tensions, in the internal earthquakes you try so hard to ignore. Desire never appears without purpose. It never awakens a part of you that you're not ready, in some way, to face. It reveals what has always been yours, just locked behind years of conditioning and emotional survival. This is the truth few people ever learn. Your mind is not trying to punish you. Your desires are not traps. Your fantasies are not flaws. Your intensity is not too much. Your emotional depth is not a weakness. Your psyche is trying to integrate you. Piece by piece. Shadow by shadow. Truth by truth. And the moment you stop fighting yourself and start listening, something shifts. The internal war loses its power. The shame begins to dissolve. The guilt becomes unnecessary. And for the first time, you step toward who you really are, not the version you were conditioned to perform. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by the expectation to be appropriate, controlled, polished, or predictable. But your inner world has never cared about being socially acceptable. It cares about being whole. This is why the unconscious doesn't speak in polite language. It speaks in symbols. In dreams. In impulses. In attractions that feel out of place. In fantasies that feel too intense. In the subtle ache you feel at 3 a.m. when the distractions finally fade. Your psyche always tells the truth, even when you're not ready to hear it. And this truth is simple, but transformative. The things you hide about yourself are not your enemies. They are your unfinished stories. Desire reveals the parts of you that long to return. Fantasies reveal the parts of you that were silenced. Shadow reveals the parts of you that were wounded. And emotional conflict reveals the parts of you that were never permitted to exist. Everything inside you is trying to come home. This journey, this inner work is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before you learned to be afraid of yourself. And if something in you feels like it's waking up, that isn't coincidence. That is integration. That is individuation. That is the beginning of becoming whole. Before we close, I want to say this clearly: you are not broken. You are unfolding. There is a reason you felt drawn to this kind of content. There is a reason certain sentences hit deeper than others. There is a reason part of you feels recognized here. Your mind is tired of being quiet. Your truth is tired of waiting. And your psyche is ready, finally, to reconnect with what you left behind. If this video touched you, thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for listening, for feeling, for allowing yourself to lean into what most people spend their lives avoiding. Your presence here matters more than you can imagine. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care of the voice inside you. It always knows.